Let's start with the transfer portal. It had such strict rules. I remember when I was in college, if you were transferring in, you would have to redshirt. Now you can go more freely. Do you think that's a good idea?
Well, I do, because why should you restrict athletes from going where they want to go? I advocated in my article that we should just allow complete free agency. And if schools are actually going to pay athletes under the table, I mean, I'll give you an example. In the old days, when I was in school playing college basketball, if you wanted to recruit an athlete to your school, you couldn't promise them anything under the rules. But there were many, many schools that broke the rules. In fact, Brittany, I don't know if you remember this, but SMU was found guilty of NCAA rule violations, in other words, paying players under the table, and they received the death penalty, which means that they were barred from competition and television for 2 years. And by the way, the athletic department and the program never recovered from that. So it's a really interesting time. My article says that what we should do, like in the gambling world, is bring it above water, above ground, so that people could actually go wherever they want and receive whatever compensation the market will bear for going to whatever school they want based on deals that they can do.
Let's talk, before we get into that more deeply, let's talk about Deion Sanders specifically. Why would he go to Colorado knowing that it was a struggling program?
Well, because he's so charismatic that he can turn the program around, much like Lincoln Riley did. As soon as he got there, there was a five-star recruit that decommitted from Notre Dame and went to CU and wanted to join Deion Sanders. 200 players went on the portal. Players that are outstanding players around the country playing for other schools currently, because they wanted to join Deion Sanders. Because a coach like this, like Deion, is going to attract money and is going to attract star players and is going to attract a lot of media attention. And that's everything that college athletes want.
Nowadays, what's more important to a college program, especially with these new rules? The coach or the players?
Well, I think with the new rules, here's what's happening. Money is very important because these high school kids don't have any money, or college kids. So these collectives are being formed, and collectives are boosters that put money in a kitty and basically say to the athletes, this money is here for you when you come to our school. Now, NCAA rules prevent these collectives from guaranteeing the money, because that would be pay for play. However, if you read my article, you'll see that this is going on right now under the table. For example, a recent article came out in Ohio. Ohio State University was recruiting an athlete. And the article basically said that athlete was promised, wink, wink, $800,000 to come to OSU, Ohio State University. But they lost out to Georgia, because Georgia was going to pay that athlete $1.8 million. So Georgia, of course, just won its second national championship. So things are going on here, Brittany. Maybe things we don't know. I'm saying bring it out of the shadows, let it be above board, let it be transparent, and then everyone will be treated at least fairly.
How do you build transparency here?
Well, you just make athletes free agents. You just basically say you can go to whatever school will give you the best deal. I mean, it's not any different than in pro sports. It's just that you're getting an education in addition to playing. There's a lot of money associated with college sports, as you know. So why shouldn't that money be available in part to those athletes that are making the product valuable? And then it's a really interesting decision. It might even help with education, because an athlete might say, well, I'm not going to go pro yet because I can still make money in college and I can continue my education.
Another recruiting story you covered was Arch Manning, the nephew of Eli and Peyton Manning. And when he visited the University of Texas, was this a similar pay for play situation?
Well, I'm not saying pay for play was involved here, but just think about it. It was reported that Arch Manning and the other student athletes that were recruited over a 2-week period, I think Texas supposedly spent or reportedly spent $1 million on various, fancy things that they were doing to entertain these student athletes. And I think that of the 23 recruits that visited Texas, 16 of them committed right after that. So, in my opinion, something else was likely going on when they were there at that school. Not only were they treated lavishly in terms of the hospitality when they were there, but the collective at Texas probably talked to them about what kind of NIL deals that they could get if they decided to go to that school.
Let's talk about the NIL deals. What are the NCAA's rules surrounding them?
Well, the NCAA rules around NIL are that players, student athletes can receive an NIL deal as long as those deals are of market rate. So, for example, Brittany, if you were an athlete, I couldn't give you $1 million to make an appearance at a car dealership and sign autographs, because that would be way out of whack with what the market is and really be viewed as pay for play. So that's sort of the rule as it exists right now. But the interesting part about this is that these athletes are represented now by agents. So what do agents want to do? Extract every dollar they possibly can, and they're very transactional. So they're going to be in there kicking, scratching, fighting for every dollar they can get for the athlete they're representing. So now you have high school athletes represented by agents, you have college athletes represented by agents, and they're going to the collectives and they're saying, pay my athlete money, guarantee my athlete money. If I come to your school and I set foot on campus and I don't have a check for X, I'm going right on the portal. So what do you think about that, Brittany?
I think, it's tricky. You described it as a black market free agency, and I have to agree here. And you said some schools are using NIL deals, quote, as a guise to stockpile talent. How are they doing this?
Well, what they want to do is they want to attract all the top players and just make sure they're getting enough compensation to make it worth their while to stay at that school. I mean, I've heard of collectives raising 5, 10, 15, 20, $25 million in a kitty just sitting there waiting to administer NIL deals to student athletes.
Knowing all of this, do you think college recruiting needs an overhaul?
I don't know if recruiting needs an overhaul, but I would overhaul the whole system. I think student athletes should be able to make whatever the market will bear for their services. And they should get an education along with that, and that's good for them long term. It's justified because it's part of the free market conditions that we're used to in this country, and everyone makes money. But obviously the NCAA for years has had a monopoly over this, and they've basically hoarded all the money to the detriment of the athletes. And now it's time for these athletes to get their fair share.
Does it look like this will happen anytime soon or at all?
I think it has to happen eventually because, as I said, it's the wild, wild west. So you have to put structure around it. I liken it to the way we're approaching the gambling business. Everybody knows for years, gambling was done secretly, illegally, under the table. And now everyone is calling for it to be viewed in a way that is transparent, that's regulated, that's open. And I think if we did this in college sports, it would be transparent, open, fair, and there would be no monkey business. And there'd be no cheating because you couldn't cheat, because free market conditions will determine where you go and how much money you get.
Leonard Armato, thank you so much.
Oh, thanks so much, Brittany. It's always great to talk to you.